Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Ten Under 10 on the Hoosier Network. I'm Nash, alongside Adam Oppenheim, and boy, do we have some very interesting scores to bring you today from around the Big Ten Conference. As many of you may know, the College Football Championship game was played last Monday, and that is where we are going to start our show off today. The Ohio State Buckeyes are on top of the college football world after taking down Notre Dame 34-23 in the College Football Championship game. We have a lot to discuss when it comes to the game and the Buckeyes season, but before we get there, Adam is going to run us through some of the film from the National Championship game and show us exactly where this game turned on its head. Adam?
Thanks, Graham. I'm going to highlight three key plays that helped the Buckeyes win the National Championship. This first play, Christian Gray, miscommunication with his Notre Dame teammates. Who's guarding Jeremiah Smith? The answer is nobody. And an easy touchdown for Ohio State as they tied the score at 7. And this was early in the second quarter after a long Notre Dame drive. Let's take another look at the replay. Miscommunication. Nobody is guarding Jeremiah Smith. Nice route where he goes in and then goes out. Easy touchdown for Ohio State. Second play I'm going to show you is one of the first plays of the second half. Let's take a look at these Notre Dame linebackers. They shift to the right, so what does a good running back do? Quinshon Judkins finds the hole, goes here, and then cuts up the field. And it's an easy touchdown for Ohio State. After this play, this was a long 60-yard run from Quinshon Judkins. The Ohio State running attack was absolutely crushing Notre Dame. Last play I'm going to show you guys is what iced the game for Ohio State. See the box here. 7 guys in the box for the Irish. 7 people blocking for Ohio State. The problem is Jeremiah Smith, the bottom of the screen, is one-on-one against Christian Gray. And when we roll this, Jeremiah Smith runs right by him. Will Howard just has to lay a ball out there. That's good enough, which he does, and they convert the first down. And when you take another additional look at the replay, it doesn't even seem like Jeremiah Smith is getting by him Gray that quickly and then runs right by him. Easy catch. 2-possession game for Ohio State after they kicked the field goal. Those were just 3 plays that changed the course of the national championship game. Graham?
Great job, Adam. The Buckeyes add their 9th college football championship trophy to the cases last Monday. Ohio State took the top step for the first time since 2014 when Urban Meyer was at the helm, and they did it during a historic college football season. And that's where we're going to start as we turn to our expert back in the seats, Adam Oppenheim. It was the very first time that we've a 12-team playoff, a bracket style. In your opinion, did the best team in college football come out on top?
Absolutely. And you probably wouldn't think that was the answer with Ohio State having 2 losses, but it does make the regular season mean a little bit less when Ohio State had 2 losses. The problem for me is the side of the bracket that had Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. That is just a stacked side and makes it an easier path for others, and that's because of the conference champions and stuff getting a bye. But really, Ohio State played well down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we're going to go with this next question. What did they do that made them so successful against Notre Dame, but after that Michigan loss? Because that was really the turning point for this team.
Well, they stopped running conservative play calls, running it up the middle. Instead, they were throwing it out to their playmakers, doing outside zones, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, getting Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka even more involved, and then design quarterback runs for Will Howard. That's a big thing in college football. If your quarterback can run, you have to use it to your advantage. Ohio State did a great job of that in the national championship game.
The Buckeyes, they are back on top of the college football world. We're going to switch gears to the basketball court. It was a very interesting week with lots of upsets, so let's get you those scores. So Adam can talk a little bit about where things stand in the conference. Michigan State was the only Big Ten team to win each game they played last week. They took down unranked Penn State and 19th-ranked Illinois in what was a massive upset at home. The 11th-ranked Boilermakers had a very successful West Coast trip, beating both Washington and 13th-ranked Oregon. However, they suffered only their second conference loss of the season last night when they lost to unranked Ohio State. Oregon did bounce back after their loss to Purdue, taking down Washington in Eugene. Moving on to Minnesota, they handed 20th-ranked Michigan their first Big Ten loss of the season in an overtime thriller that included a near half-court buzzer beater from Dawson Garcia. The Wolverines also bounced back, however, and they took down unranked Northwestern at home a couple days later. Rounding things out, 24th ranked Wisconsin had a roller coaster weekend in Los Angeles, taking down USC but losing to the unranked UCLA Bruins. Adam, we'll turn back to you. Lots of drama in this last week. Start us off with Minnesota and what on earth happened with that Minnesota Miracle in Minneapolis.
That was an impressive win for Minnesota, their first conference win of the season, but it's all about Dawson Garcia. He stays put with Minnesota. Most players of his caliber would transfer. Instead, he sticks it out with the Golden Gophers, and they come out with a big-time win. Lakai Patterson had a great game. Transfer from Charlotte, was able to knock down some clutch threes. Minnesota doesn't have a whole lot of depth, but they did show it against Michigan, a Michigan team that's prone to turning the ball over, and they took advantage of that. Danny Wolf had 6 first-half turnovers, was really good in the second half, but Michigan should have been up by more than, I think they were up 8 or 9 at halftime. They should have been up more. Minnesota comes roaring back, and then just a clutch shot by Dawson Garcia.
It was one of 3 massive upsets. Unfortunately, we're pressed for time, as you know, so we'll only be able to talk about 2 of the others. Let's start with Michigan State. They beat 19th-ranked Illinois. Is the result more concerning for Illinois or more promising for Michigan State?
I think it has to be more promising for Michigan State, and it's because of Trey Holloman. 11-0 since he's been in the starting lineup. Great floor general for the Spartans. Could also score the ball a bit. Had 17 points in this game against Illinois. What I'm looking to for the Illini and why they lost, Kasparas Yakachunas, their talented freshman, fouled out in this game, only playing 9 minutes, 1 of 3 from the floor. A couple questionable foul calls, I will say. Looking at some of the replays, I thought, 2 should not have been fouls. But still, if Illinois doesn't have their main ball handler, you have Kylan Boswell handling the ball. He had 5 turnovers in this game, played nearly every minute of the game. But Illinois, they were 5 for 24 from 3. Michigan State was 3 for 10. And Illinois was hanging in the game. Will Riley, the freshman, had 16 first-half points. This is nothing to be ashamed of if you're a road team going into Spartan Stadium and losing that game.
Last upset that we'll talk about, the 11th-ranked Purdue Boilermakers lost at home to unranked Ohio State. Is it time for the Boilermakers to hit the panic button?
Absolutely not. If you're a Purdue fan, you knew it was going to be an adjustment without Zach Edey. And Braden Smith did not have a good game. 3 for 14 from the floor, 3 for 14 from the floor, and was just not good in the game. Ohio State was 11 for 23 from three-point range. Purdue only shot 9 threes, 3 for 9. Purdue makes a living off of three-point shooting. Micah Paris had a huge game for Ohio State. John Mobley, how about the freshman? A clutch shot in the corner to extend to a 2-possession game. But I'm looking at the halftime speech, and I'm not sure what it was from Jake Diebler, but it sure worked out for Ohio State because they started the half on a 17-2 run. That does not happen in Mackey Arena too often.
Really impressive win from the Buckeyes. We started things on the turf, moved to the hardwood, so why not? Let's take it to the ice and bring you some hockey updates. Here are the scores from the last week of action. Penn State won both of its games against the Canisius University Golden Griffins, 4-0 and 3-2. Cross-state rivals Michigan and Michigan State split a pair of games in a top 10 matchup. 10th-ranked Michigan won 3-2 in Ann Arbor, and top-ranked Michigan State won 4-1 in East Lansing. Unranked Notre Dame and third-ranked Minnesota also split a pair of games, with the Minnesota Golden Gophers taking the first 5-2 and the Irish taking the second 4-3. Lastly, unranked Wisconsin took down the Long Island University Sharks in their first meeting 6-3, but then tied them 2-2 the second time around. We're going to keep things right here as we still have more scores to bring you, this time on the mats in the form of wrestling. Number 2 Iowa smoked number 9 Illinois 28-6. Number 1 Penn State handed 7th-ranked Nebraska a similar result, taking them down 31-7. 4th-ranked Ohio State killed Purdue 34-10. The Boilermakers also lost to the 25th-ranked Indiana Hoosiers 25-11 in West Lafayette. 15th-ranked Michigan took down unranked Northwestern 26-10, but lost to 8th-ranked Minnesota 25-10. 14th-ranked Rutgers smoked Wisconsin 31-7, and filling in the gaps, unranked MSU beat unranked Buffalo 25-13, and unranked Maryland took down unranked Wisconsin 24-13. And that is going to wrap up today's show. Huge thanks to our producer slash teleprompter, Colin Dusek, for making all of this possible. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at B1G_under10, and check back in later this week for our next episode of Big Ten Under 10.